Okay, so I'm going to do number 2 of the independent practice from lesson 4.3. First, you're given a parabola and then you have to find the inverse. So in order for you to find the inverse, you have to understand that f of x is actually just y. And then x plus 4 squared. Now I'm going to swap out the x's and y's. Here I have a square, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to square root both sides to what's the word? I'm going to simplify that 2 into 1. So I have, on this side I have y plus 4 now. On this side I have plus or minus the square root of x. I still have not finished isolating y, so I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. So y equals plus or minus the square root of x minus 4. So our inverse is f of negative 1, x equals plus or minus the square root of x minus 4. Okay? Now let's look at the domain and range of the function. The domain and range of the function. The domain, this is a parabola, so it's always going to be negative infinity to infinity, or you can write all real numbers. Okay? For the range, it's always helpful to look at its vertex. So h, you look at inside, and it's a positive 4, so we leave that negative behind, and now it becomes a negative 4, and then 0. Okay, so we know that y is greater than or equal to 0 because this parabola looks like this. And you can also rewrite that as 0 and then infinity. Now, if you look at the f of negative 1 inverse, the inverse domain and range, it's really easy. All you have to do is look at the original function's domain and range, and they become the opposite. Or you look at the range, which is y is greater than or equal to 0, and the domain is now x is greater than or equal to 0. Or you can write it as 0 and then infinity. For the range, you look at the domain right here, and it's all real numbers. Negative infinity to infinity. Now let's go ahead and graph it. Okay? So here is my axis. Okay? Let's go ahead and put some points on it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Negative 4, 0. Okay, is my first point. Because that's the vertex right here. Okay, and then let's go ahead and go 1 to the right. So our first point was negative 4, 0. Let's try negative 3. Okay, so we have y equals x plus 4 squared. Okay, we have negative 3 plus 4 squared. Negative 3 plus 4 is 1. So we have 1 squared, so that's 1. Negative 3, 1. Negative 3, 1. And at this point we know that it's also going to be negative 5, 1, because that's how parabolas work, guys. This is symmetrical. So you know that 1 to the right from negative 4, it's going to be 1. Wow, that's just not a pretty parabola. It'll just have to work in this tight confined space. Okay, now we have our points right here. And for our function, what we're going to do is take the inverse of those and then plot our inverse. So we have 0, negative 4, 1, negative 3, and 1, negative 5. Okay, so we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Do it in different colors. 0, -4 here, and then 1, -3 here, and then 1, -5. There's our inverse right here. As you can see, here's our function right here, okay? And here's the inverse. The inverse is not a function, okay? And that's a big problem for me. I want the inverse to be a function. So how do I make that inverse a function? I look at the original function, and I see that the domain of this is all real numbers. So it's going to go from all the way here and all the way to the left. I just want this one portion right here where from the vertex, let's see, the vertex was -4, 0, so x is greater than or equal to -4. I just want this portion. Why? Because if I just take that and restrict this function for just that section, then my inverse is also going to just be this top portion right here. It's not going to include this bottom portion. So if I don't include that bottom portion, then I have a function as an inverse. Okay? So, and you can also see that the range of the inverse now becomes y is greater than -4. Whereas before, the range was all real numbers. Okay? Because I am eliminating this portion right here. And I'm also eliminating that. What I'm really doing is I'm eliminating the left side of the parabola, the original function, so that the inverse, the bottom portion, gets eliminated. Okay? So how do I write that? How do I go about and write that? How do I go about writing that? So the original function was f of x, wow, that's my stomach if you heard it, equals x plus 4 square. And we identified that the vertex was -4, 0. And the inverse was f of -1, x equals positive and negative square root of x minus 4. So basically, if I restrict the function and I say I just want f of x equals x plus 4 square when x is greater than or equal to -4, okay, so that's just that 1/2 of the parabola right here. That's my vertex, just to the right side, okay, so that f of -1 x equals square root of x minus 4, so that just the portion that is just that half of that inverse, not the whole thing, because the original one looks like this. Okay, I just want that top portion. Okay, and the top portion is f of -1 x equals square root of x minus 4, and the bottom portion is f of -1 x equals negative square root of x minus 4. Guys, also remember that this -4 is outside of the radical. Okay, it's not inside of the radical. Okay, I am just including just the positive portion, just this positive portion, not the negative portion. I don't want this, okay, because I didn't take this. I did choose not to use that left part, okay. So just this portion is a function now. Yay. Okay, this is all I want. An understanding that I just took half of this parabola along the axis of symmetry, just this portion, and then I looked at the vertex, and x has to be greater than or equal to -4. And so when I just plot that, I just get this top portion. I don't get the bottom portion. Okay? I hope you understand that. That's very important that you understand that. Okay?